Hello, internet, yet again. This is super fun because I haven't made a video in like 2 months. So, what a time to come back to video making after a hiatus. Got my big mug of hot chocolate and I'm getting ready for Spooky Girl Summer, which is why my face is really tan but not the rest of my body because the sun has come out and my skin gets dark. But I'm trying to tan, but you can tell, like, look at my hand next to my face. It's pretty stark. Anyway, I'm back with I don't know how to get the microphone out of the shot setup to talk about a movie recently. So I'm making this video for my dear friend CAITLYN, who she's great and I love her. We've been best friends for a long time, but she does not like the horror genre. She does not vibe with spooky things very well. So when I watch a very good horror movie and I'm like, girl, you gotta go see it, it's really good, she gets like, no thanks, I don't want to watch it, which makes sense. But at the same time, sometimes I want her to experience the thing so I can reference it in casual settings, as one does with their friends. So the point of today, the point of sitting down right now in front of my computer, is so I can explain the plot of the 2022 film Barbarian. So we're gonna talk about Barbarian, and this is gonna be just a plain. I'm gonna explain the plot. I'm not gonna do the whole deep dive, read the book it's based on. This isn't 13 Reasons Why. But you can watch my 13 Reasons Why video and laugh at my old hairstyle. But anyway, we're gonna talk about Barbarian and what happened, and I took notes so I don't have to totally remember it off the cuff, but it's gonna be good. And CAITLYN, you'll finally understand why I think Airbnbs are so cool. And if you're not CAITLYN, this is gonna be like I'm going through the plot beat by beat, so this is gonna be spoilery. So it might be fun if you've watched it. It'll be fun if you don't watch it, if you never want to see it. But if you want to see it, maybe don't watch this first, unless you're like a cool guy who's just like, I don't even care about spoilers, I just want to know. Because that happens sometimes. Anyway, this is the first episode of first and only episode of let's call this fake series I'll never watch. So this is I'll never watch Barbarian. So another point before I totally get into the plot, and I have my phone here. Look, I have my phone with my notes ready to go. So another reason why I'm bringing up this movie specifically, out of all the horror movies I've seen recently, and gosh, some of them are bangers, I fucking love them, but is because my dear friend CAITLYN stayed in an Airbnb with her boyfriend recently, and I've never stayed. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna punch the microphone by accident a lot. Try to calm it down. I'm gonna punch the microphone by accident a lot because it's in a weird spot. But anyway, I've never stayed in an Airbnb because I lived in San Francisco when there was an election going on about whether Airbnb should be allowed to own property in San Francisco, and I was really, really against it because there's a housing crisis in San Francisco, and so, but we lost, so Airbnb was allowed to buy property and own it in the city of San Francisco, and I thought that was a scam, and so I kind of hate Airbnb as a company and a culture. But it also seems really nice to be able to pretend to live in a house for a period of time. As a person who doesn't live in a house, going to a house and staying inside of it feels like a sweet vacation. So I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm a little morally opposed to it as a corporation, but I understand it. And one day I'll probably stay in an Airbnb, and I hope it's exactly like the plot of Barbarian. But that's why we're talking about this, because of my love-hate relationship with Airbnb, and also because CAITLYN went to one, and she didn't even get the reference. It was a whole reference. Okay, let's start. Let's start with the plot. So, it's a dark and stormy night. Literally, it's a dark and stormy night scene, like first scene, lady in her car. It's raining. Her name is Tess. They don't say that yet, but we're gonna know. So I'm just gonna call her Tess because that's her name. So we see a lady in a car. Her name's Tess. She's like on her phone, right? And she's like, boop, 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 like looking up her Airbnb info. Like there's like a key and a code, like a lockbox. And so she's gotta like look up the code and shit. And some guy named Marcus is like trying to blow up her phone, like give her calls. And she's like, no. So we're like, okay, girl. Who knows why she's in this Airbnb? Who knows why she's out? It's like the middle of the night. It's like dark. And she's just like coming out like, was this last minute? Was this, planned? Who knows? So she runs out. She's got her stuff. She runs out to the thing. She puts the code in, opens the lockbox. Key isn't there. And she's like, hold on, excuse me? So she calls the place, calls the like landlord. It's like through a service. So she calls the service and gets a voicemail. So she's like, well, shit. Can't go into my Airbnb. Looks around the neighborhood. The neighborhood is like, it's like dark, like hella dark. Like, it's a neighborhood where there's like houses like on a street. Like you're on a street with houses and there's another street with houses across the street from you. But like no one's got their lights on, like at all. There are no cars. There are no street lights. It's like the only light on this street is from the house she's trying to get into. And there's like a porch light on. And like her car. So it's a little bit of a red flag for me. Things aren't usually that dark in the middle of a city. They're also in Detroit. It's kind of like thrown in at random, but they're in the middle of Detroit or in some part of it. I'm not familiar with the city of Detroit, so I don't know if this is like a real part or if this is like a fake thing that they made up. They could be anything, because who knows where Detroit is. Just kidding. I know it's in America, but that's pretty much as far as I go. She can't get a hold of anyone. It's dark. It's raining. But she looks in the window like she a movement catches her eye, the corner of her eye, right? Who is it? What is it? There's a guy inside of the house. And so she's like, ding, 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 ringing the doorbell, like ding, 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 like let me in, bitch. Guy opens the door. Again, it's super late at night. It's like, he says it's the middle of the night. So, for me, that puts it anywhere between like 11 p.m. and like 3 a.m. kind of window. Unclear. It's late. Ding, 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 ding. Guy opens the door. He's like, what? Hello? And she's like, who are you? And he's like, what do you mean, who am I? Who are you? And she's like, oh my God, I rented this place on Airbnb. So, like, who the fuck are you? Because the key isn't there and I can't get anyone on the phone. So, like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, well, I rented this place through another Airbnb-like service. I forget what it was. I didn't put it in my notes. But Airbnb 2. He's like, oh, I just rented. So they put the housing on the, like, booking on 2 different places. It got double booked and no one noticed, I guess. So, and so they both booked it, and so she's like, well, shit, I guess I'll go find a hotel. And he's like, you can come in, like, because it's raining, and I'm not gonna, like, make you stand outside, so, like, go ahead and come in. And so she comes in. She's a little hesitant, because, like, again, it's weird that, like, there's a random man in the Airbnb you rented who you don't know. It's suspicious. It's suspicious. I will interject. I will interject and put the fact that the description for this movie... Oh my God, can I find the description? I needed to read the description of this movie to you guys, or you won't understand what I was thinking when I went into this movie. Okay, here we go. I pulled up the description of the film, which says... Woman finds out the rental home she reserved has been accidentally double booked by a man, not knowing of a dark secret within the dwelling. That's it. It's like a 2-sentence thing. Also, I just learned that this movie premiered at San Diego Comic-Con in 2022, which is crazy. I also, when I went to Comic-Con, I saw a horror movie premiered, and it was called The Gallows, and it was pretty good, but that was in 2015, and I haven't seen it since, so, I should check it out again. But anyway, unrelated. So... you can tell with a description like that, I thought going into this movie, this guy was like a creep. He's the creepy guy, right? Like, he snuck in. He's like giving her this fake story. So just like, I'm going to give you that seed of doubt. So you feel that with me as I describe to you the next series of events that occur with our girl, Tess. So Tess is looking for a hotel because she does not want to stay in this Airbnb with this creepy guy, but nor does she like want to like sleep in her car. I watched this movie with my friends and we were like, just sleep in your car. Like, cause she has like an SUV. She's a pretty nice big car. I'm like, girl, I've slept in cars before. Like, if I was really desperate, I would sleep in my car. It's got locks. He like says like, whoa, you shouldn't like go into your car because like you can't lock it. And I'm like, yeah, my car is equally lockable as it is a house. So I don't see the point. But anyway, she's looking for hotels. But the creepy guy, his name is Keith. I'm not gonna stop calling him creepy guy. We'll call him Keith because that's his name. Keith goes, oh wait, because she's like looking for hotels. She's like calling it up like, hey, do you have room? No. Okay, I call the next one. And he's like, actually, I just remembered, there's a convention in town. So all the hotels are going to be really booked up and you won't be able to get anything. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, why do you know that? That's creepy. But that's what he says. And then he's like, actually, you can just stay here with me. Like, like it's not either of our faults that the place like double booked it. And I really don't want to put you out. And he's like trying to be like really chivalrous, like really gentlemanly. So he's like, oh, like, I don't want to put a woman out on the street at night, blah, 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 blah. And she's kind of like, okay, crazy. Like, it's a little weird though. I'm a little uncomfortable by that. And he's like, no, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And she's kind of like, okay, well, I guess I don't really have much of a choice. Because again, sleeping in the car apparently isn't an option, which... Between sleeping in a house with a random man and sleeping in my car, I would sleep in my car. But again, that's not Tess's view of life, okay? So she's like, okay, I'll sleep in the house. And he's like, okay, cool. You can take the bedroom because there's like a lock on the door. Like, I'll give you the privacy and I'll sleep on the couch. And she's like, okay, fine. Like, that's a little weird. I'm willing to sleep on the couch, but whatever. He's like old school gentlemanly, right? Where he's like, a woman. Like, so it came off as creepy to me, but I think it was supposed to be like romantic or like, I don't think it was supposed to be creepy, but it came off creepy to me when I was watching it. So you're seeing it through the lens of me.
Separate entirely. DENNIS. The dentist system. That, my friends, is the key to winning any girl's heart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Better than I remember it. Oh, good.
Are you kidding me?
Hearing me tell it to you on YouTube. But she's like, okay. But the thing is that I really like don't want to sleep in dirty sheets because he was like asleep in the bed in the room. There's only one bedroom in this house, which I find a little surprising because it's actually a pretty large looking house. Usually houses I think have 2 rooms, but this is like, I don't know. It's kind of a misleading house. It's like a misleading size because it looks like a big house from the outside, I guess, but they have like just a really big like dining kitchen living room kind of areas. Like the first half of the house, there's one room, like a 1 bedroom, a bathroom, like there's like a little hall, right? There's a bedroom, bathroom, and then there's like the basement door, stairs down to the basement, and then like the back of the house. That's just like a door that leads you to the back yard, I guess. So very small house, only 1 room. Dude was asleep in the bed. And so she's like, I want to sleep on clean sheets, so we need to fix that. And so what they do is they take the sheets off the bed and throw them in the washing machine. There's a washer dryer unit, so that's nice. They do that because there are no extra sheets in the house. Again, a little weird. I've never been in an Airbnb, so I don't know. But why wouldn't you have multiple like bed sheets available? Like I in my home own multiple sets of bed sheets just in case, like in case I, you know, want to swap them out, like if I had to like wash them and then I wanted to go to bed like right after, I could just put a second sheet like on, you know? But okay, they don't have that. It's suspicious. You see me like lining up all the suspicions for you. I'm sorry. It's like you can do this yourself, but I'm doing it too. Ah, my face is also moisturized, and so it looks really shiny, and I'm sorry about that, but I don't want to put powder on. All right, sheets are in the wash. That's gonna take like 2 hours or whatever. You know, like laundry takes forever. I don't honestly don't know how long laundry's supposed to take, but for whatever reason, it's forever in my brain. And so beforehand, when she was like trying to call hotels and stuff, Keith was like, oh, I'm gonna make a cup of tea. Do you want a cup of tea? Like, and she's like, no, I don't. And he's like, okay, well, like I made you a cup of tea anyway. LOL. Again, I think he was trying to be gentlemanly and nice, but it comes off as really weird. Especially like, who's this guy trying to like offer me some like drink? You want to make me a drink and you want me to drink it? Like, suspicious, but okay. Suspicious. But so he's like, when she's like puts the stuff in the thing, and I think she got in her jammies or something, like, you know, she kind of like, you know, takes a second to settle in after she decides she's gonna stay. She comes into the kitchen and he's like sitting there because there was a wine bottle that they like the Airbnb people left in there, and then he's like got 2 glasses, like he's sitting at the table with a wine bottle and 2 glasses, and he's like, oh, hey, like, I wanted to offer you some wine, but, like, I noticed you didn't drink the tea that I made for you earlier, and, like, I totally get it, like, it's pretty creepy, like, you don't know who I am, but I want to drink this wine with you, so I wanted to wait to open it so you could watch me open it so you wouldn't be, like, suspicious of me. And so she's like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want any wine, but, like, go ahead, that's fine. And he's like, okay, and he opens the wine and drinks it, so... Keith, I'm sorry, like, he rubbed me the wrong way. So he's drinking wine, and like while he's sitting there drinking wine, she's also sitting at the table because she can't go to bed because the sheets are in the wash. And he's like, so what brings you to Detroit? And she's like, oh, I'm here for a job interview. And so he asks what job it is, and she's like, okay, she's like interviewing to be a researcher for a documentary filmmaker, which crazy job, right? I'm interested. And so he's like, oh, like, who's the filmmaker? And she's like, oh, it's blah, 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 so-and-so, person I didn't write down in my notes. And he's like, oh, has that, like, have they made, like, what did she make? Like, what kind of, anything I've seen? And she's like, probably not. She made this, like, super indie, she made this super indie, like, documentary about, like, the Detroit jazz scene or something like that. I don't remember. It was some, like, indie thing. And he was like, oh, yeah, I totally saw that. Like, she says the name of it. And he's like, oh, I've seen that. And she's like, no way you saw that. And he's like, yeah, no, like, this part of it, I remember it was really good. And I was kind of like, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, my God, crazy. And he's like, what is her next movie? Because now he knows what's going on. And she's like, oh, we're making another movie about the Detroit jazz scene, da-da-da-da-da. Or music scene, I forget. It was something about that. And he was like, oh, you know who'd be a good interview for that? You could interview me. Because I'm a big player in the Detroit music scene. I'm one of the founders of something, I don't remember. And she's like, oh my God, you're one of the founders of that thing? That's crazy. Why are you in an Airbnb? Like, don't you guys have hella money and are like super successful? And he's like, yeah, but we're trying to like branch out and he's doing some scouting thing. It's kind of stupid. But not only did he know about the obscure documentary filmmaker, now he's a part of this thing that she's also a part of. So suspicions increase yet again. And that's like the beginning of their like talking montage. So it just like kind of cuts to them like they're like, because that whole part was them sitting at the table and he's drinking wine. Cuts to them sitting on the couch. They're both drinking wine. They're having a great time. They're just chatting about everything, chatting about life. So they're totally getting along. It's great. She says something about like the only important info from their conversation. The only important thing is that she says life is hard for women, and she's getting out of an abusive relationship. What I mean when I say life is hard for women is she does talk about how like, oh, like people creep on women more than they creep on men. And he was like, what? And she's like, yeah, like if I was the person who was in the Airbnb and you knocked on my door in the middle of the night, I would not have opened the door for you because I would have assumed you were here to kill me. But you, with your confidence as a man in the way our society works, were confident enough to open the door and let me in, even though I'm a stranger. But like you didn't see me as a threat. So she's kind of commenting on like that aspect, which I feel like this movie's like really playing with that idea because this guy's creeping me out. Yeah, and then the other part is that she's like, I'm getting out of an abusive relationship. Like blah blah blah. I always thought, oh, I dropped my phone. But she's like, I always thought women who were in abusive relationships were stupid, and then I realized I was in one. You know, the classic, if you've ever talked to anyone who's been in an abusive relationship, they're just like, yeah, I feel really stupid post-abusive relationship for getting into it in the first place. It's that. Also, that's probably the guy who was blowing up her phone earlier. So now, you know, mystery solved. Check. So, they chitty chat. The laundry finishes, she gets the bed ready, and they go to sleep because it was already late when she got there, so I imagine it's like 6 a.m. now, or like 5 a.m., right? It's probably like really... This is my guesstimated time frame. It could honestly be like midnight. I have no idea. It's dark o'clock the whole time. So they go to sleep. She's asleep in the bedroom, the door is closed. And then they show her like, okay, I'm asleep. And then the door opens behind her. Oh, creepy, right? So she's like, the fuck? Like, she turns around like, bitch, what? The door is open. And she's like, immediately thinks it's Keith, right? She's like, okay, clearly Keith is a creep, and he opened the door. So she goes to the door, peeks out, and Keith is asleep on the couch. Like, from when you're standing at the door frame of the bedroom, you can see the couch, like, kind of at an angle. Like, you can see straight to it. So she looks, and he's, like, straight up asleep on the couch. But he's having a night terror, like a really small night terror. So he's kind of like, twitching a little bit and going like, oh, 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 like, as night terrors do. And so this is where I'm like, God damn it, Tess, what? She's the main character of a horror movie. She gets to have like 15 free, oh my God, what moments? This is like her third, I would say, for this. First one is like getting into the house instead deciding to stay. The second one is like drinking anything this guy gave her. Third one is I'm gonna go walk up to this man who's asleep and having a night terror and wake him up. Because that's what she decides to do. So she like shakes him awake because she's like, oh, he's making noise. It's like rude on top of weird. Like I would never do that. I would just close the door and go back to and just stay in there. But okay. I have a scary story in real life that I could share here. But should I share it or should I explain what's going on? No, we'll explain this because it's really quick. She walks up to him, wakes him up. Right? So he's like, ah, 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 screaming. And then he wakes up and then screams for real, like consciously screams because now there's a woman right in front of him, like waking him up in the night. Scary. And then she's like, oh my God. So she screams. And she's like, oh my God, what? Like, why are you screaming? And he's like, oh my God, like, what the fuck? Like, literally, what are you doing? And she's like, did you open my door? And he's like, no, I was literally asleep. And she's like, and he's like, why'd you wake me up? And she's like, well, because, like, the door opened and I thought you did it, but you were, like, making sound. And he's like, what do you mean I was making sound? And again, it's like she's never heard. She's like an adult woman. You never heard of night terrors? Like, you're not conscious through it. Like, it's like saying stuff in your sleep. Some people, like, sleep talk and they can have full conversations and, like, not remember it. Like, when you're asleep, anything goes. Who knows what's going on. But she was like, did you open my door? And he's like, no, what the fuck? And then she's like, okay, I'm sorry. Now I feel like really awkward. Like, and behind her, like down the hall, we see like a mysterious figure fucking go down the fucking basement door and close it. So like, there's a thing in the house. We know there's a thing in the house. There's a person in the house besides these two. Anyway, side note with my personal scary story in the dead of night. So I was staying at I did a trip when I was doing my internship with SETI. And we had like all the intern kids. We weren't kids, but like, you know, kind of. We were like academia kids because we all didn't even have undergrad degrees, you know, so embarrassing. But we went to Hat Creek Radio Observatory, which is pretty much by Lassen. It's in California, by Mount Lassen. And the thing about radio observatories and radio astronomy is that they're really, really sensitive to human signals, right? Because it picks up radio signals, which is anything wireless that you have emits radio signals, like anything. Like your wireless mouse to your fucking desktop emits a radio signal, because that's how the like wirelessness connects, right? Like it sends a signal, the dongle receives a signal. So all cell phones emit this, TVs emit this, like there's like actual radios will emit it too, but like in the modern day it's mostly through wireless things. So on radio observatories, they're built in places that are radio quiet, where they're usually like way out in the middle of nowhere, so they're not close to cities. And they are like and when you're in a radio observatory, you can't use anything wireless. So if you have internet, it has to be through cable, or you know, if you need a phone call, it has to be through like a phone with a cable. Like you can't do anything wireless. So it's like a trippy experience. It's like kind of like a cool like electronics detox. But it can be kind of stressful because it's also like, you know, you're totally away from calling for help and things like that a little bit. So I was at a radio observatory and I was in the dorm, and there was a dorm there. So I'm in a room with like another girl. I was trying to think if there were 3 other people or one other person. There's one other person in the dorm with me, and like our door was like kind of ajar because there were like 2 sets of dorms. There was like girls' dorms, boys' dorms, kind of. So I was in the girls' dorms. But you know, whatever. Like I was in the girls' dorm, and there was a man in the girls' dorm with us because he like lives there. People live on observatories to a certain extent, and this guy was one of the guys who like kind of lived there, and so he was just there. Like his stuff was set up, so we're not gonna like make him leave. But like our door was ajar at night. Like I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh my god, why did I wake up in the middle of the night? Because you're also in the middle of the woods, so you know, you got animal sounds, you got tree sounds, you know, all sorts of woods noises. So I was like, why did I wake up? And like the door was ajar, and I see this like old man, I'm talking like 80-year-old man, like in his underwear, he's in nothing but his underwear, like walking down the hall, like shuffling down the hall, and like kind of like he's just being an old man. So it's not like that creepy, but like in the night with like almost no lighting. We also had this fake so in the front room of the dorm, there's this type of light you can put on, and it looks like a TV. It just kind of shows a bunch of different colors, and it looks like a TV's on, but you don't have to have a TV on to, you know, keep intruders away. It makes you look like you're home. So with like this creepy lighting in the background, this old man shuffles down the hall, just like standing there, like he's breathing really heavy in a weird way, kind of like, you know, old people with lung problems do. Scared the fucking shit out of me. Holy shit. And it was the middle of the night, and I was stuck in a room, and I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I just laid there, you know, like just frozen, like, holy shit, I hope he goes away. Because this is freaking me out. I don't want to wake up my roommate, and I don't want to alert him to the fact that I'm awake. I'm just gonna lay there. Again, Tess could have just done that, just like, holy shit, this is really creepy. I'm just gonna lay here. But she decided to do crazy shit. Anyway, end of Elle's personal stories. Back to the plot of this film. I'm already 31 minutes into it, and I thought I'd explain this movie in 5 minutes, so this is gonna be a long one. Sorry, guys. Okay, of course this is pre-editing, so maybe it'll be less. Okay, so she woke him up, creepy figure, they go to sleep. She goes to sleep. She wakes up. Oh my god, daytime. Goes to her job interview. Her job interview goes great. The lady who makes the movies is like, wow, you're such a great fit. Good job. Like, I'll call you tomorrow. And she's like, oh my God, thanks. And then the lady's like, hey, where are you staying while you're in the city? And she's like, oh, I have an Airbnb. Like, and the lady's like, oh, that's nice. Where's the Airbnb? And she's like, oh, it's in blah, blah, blah part of town. And then the lady's like, I'm sorry, what? You're in the, where are you? And she's like, you know, the blah, blah, blah part of town. And she was like, no, you shouldn't be there. That's a dangerous place. Like, that's like a bad area. Like, there shouldn't be Airbnbs there. That's like kind of crazy. And she's like, no, it's fine. And the lady's like, okay, be like really careful though, because that's really weird. Also, we did see her drive like through the neighborhood like earlier, in the daylight for the first time. And yeah, the neighborhood's like tagged up. It looks straight up abandoned. Like, not like run down ghetto, but like no one lives there, which like I find very creepy. If like there's a part of the city that no one goes to, like why would you go there? And it explains like why, you know, there were no lights on at the other houses, because it seems like no one lives in any of those houses except for that one, which again, a little creepy weepy. So she's like, okay, be safe, like, crazy person. All right. So Tess goes back to the Airbnb, and as she's getting out of her car, there's a homeless man sprinting down the street. Like, we can see at, like, the angle is like, we see her in the car, and we see the street behind, and we see this homeless man running from behind. So she just gets out and she's like, oh my God, there's a homeless man. So she like runs into the house, as you would, right? And the homeless man's like, don't go in the house. You're gonna get trapped. There's bad things in there. Don't go in there. But she's like, who the fuck is this? Goes in, locks the door. Homeless man's just like running around. He like tries to like come in like, like, you know, pressing the pounding on the door. And she's like, hell no. She calls the police, and then the police are like, you know, we just hear the conversation, and she's like, they're like, is the guy still there? And she's like, no, like, I don't see him anymore, but, like, please send someone to the house. And they're like, there's no available units, so goodbye. And she's like, what the fuck? Oh my God. And they're like, okay, don't get mad at me, but goodbye. So, you know, please don't do anything. To be fair, it's not really a crime. I've tried to call the police over similar things, aka being stalked and stuff. And until that person actually hits you or does something bad, you can't do it. The police won't do anything. So you never call the fucking police. What are they good for until you're actually dead? Pretty much. Like, even some people who like actually get beat up, like, call the police, and the police are like, well, can you prove it was that guy? So I don't know what you want me to do. And you're like, what do you even do? But anyway, I'm not here to talk about how the police are dumb. I'm sure they do something. I just don't know what they do personally, which I think says a lot about our society. Anyway, Tess, upset by all that, she goes to the bathroom. And there's no toilet paper. And she's like, well, shit. So there's no toilet paper, and she goes to, like, look around, you know, in the house for toilet paper. So she goes in the basement, and there it is. It's in the basement. So she grabs a couple of rolls and heads back upstairs. But now the door that leads into the house is locked. It is closed and locked. She cannot open the door. So now she is trapped in the basement. So she's like, oh shit, because she has the key to the Airbnb in her pocket, right? And so, like, because her and Keith have been, like, putting the key in the lockbox for each other, because they know the lockbox key. So, you know, you get the lockbox, open the door, put the thing back in so the other person can get in. Because there's only one key, I guess. And so she has the key, so Keith cannot get in the house. And she locked it because the homeless man, right? So it's not like she left it unlocked. And her phone is, like, in the bathroom, too. So she's got no phone, and no one can come in and get her, and she's fucking trapped. So scary. I don't like that. I hate the idea of being trapped, personally. So we're off to a good start in Scary Movie Town. So while she's trapped, she looks around the basement to try to find something to help. There's, like, a window because you know how the basement's like in the ground. There's like a high up window that's like pretty much on the ground. Like if you were to look at the lawn, there would be like a low window that you could see into the basement. There's one of those, but it's pretty high for her, so it'd be hard for her to get up to it, and she can't open it. And there's like other random stuff, and she finds a mysterious hole drilled in the wall. What's coming out of that hole? A mysterious rope? Like a creepy rope that someone put through a hole that they drilled into the wall? Why? So she pulls on the rope, and the rope reveals a trap door. It's in the wall, and the mystery door opens up and reveals a creepy dark hallway. And she's like, nah. You get this great scene. If I could put it in here, I will. But you get this great scene of her opens, like, seeing this door and being like, hell no. And I'm like, yeah, girl, that's creepy. Why would you do that?
Nope.
So she finds a floor-length mirror, because, you know, it's a garage, so there's random stuff in there. She finds a floor-length mirror and tries to, like, rig it so she can, like, you know, get there's, like, a little bit of light from the thing, so the light goes down on the mirror and kind of goes down the hallway. It works enough. She's, like, doing that, kind of, like, adjusting, you know, she's kind of, like, can I do it? Yep, there was. Oh my god, I missed it. You can kind of see the light I'm using. There it is. Wait. She's doing this. Oh my god, I see you. But what does she see? Like the faintest reflection, because the light's not very strong. My light's great. But she sees the faintest reflection of something brass, something like a doorknob, reflecting some light back. So she's like, okay. So she rigs up the mirror on like a chair. Like there's like a chair and a bunch of stuff, so it's like sitting in the way. So she still has light aimed at the thing, so she knows where to go. Good idea. I bring this up when I play horror games a lot. You can use mirrors to use light. I don't know why people don't do it more. So I was really happy about that. Anyway, she goes, opens the door. It's like, you know, just like a regular door. Opens the door, looks inside. What does she see? A nasty, nasty, nasty bed. It's like, you know, like a bed frame with a nasty, like, naked mattress on it. That's like covered in like evidence of fluid, but you know, it's kind of like, is it blood? Is it shit? It's just dark and gross. There's that. There's a bucket on the floor. And then there's like a video camera on a tripod. And the room's like well lit. Like the lights are on. She goes in, lights are on. That's what she sees. And she's like, dude, this is creepy as shit. What is this? So she leaves, right? And as she walks away, she hears, what's his name? Keith is like knocking on the door because he's like, hey, you have the key. Like, let me in. And so she's like pounding on the window, like, tick, 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 tick. Like, Keith, open the door. And he's like, oh shit, girl, what? And he like opens it up and he's like, oh damn. So she hands him the key. He takes the key, comes in, gets her out. And they're upstairs. And she's like, this shit's creepy. We're gonna fucking leave, right? She's like, hell no. I'm not staying in here. I don't know what this, like, nasty bucket and bed and video camera room is, but I do not like it, and I'm gonna leave. And he's like, oh my god, what? Like, calm down. Because, like, she's literally just like, there's a bucket. Oh my god. And he's like, what the fuck are you saying? Oh, Keith, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened to you. At this point, I'm not mad at Keith anymore. I just think he's a weird guy. Not like a malicious guy, just like a weird person. She's like, we need to leave. And she's like grabbing her shit, like absolutely walking out the door, ready to go. And he's like, okay, like hold the fucking phone. I want to see what you're talking about, because like you sound super upset and I have no idea what you're saying because like you're not describing it well. And she's like, okay, like fine. And he's like, but you got locked in the basement, so I want you to stay here Like, stand at the door so the door doesn't lock so I can go down there and look at it. And she's like, fair enough. Okay, that sounds good. So she goes to stand at the door. Keith walks down. And then, you know, he kind of like sees like the weird mirror rig she has set up. And then he's like, okay. And so she's like, Keith, do you see it? And he's like, oh yeah, I totally see it. So he's there. And she's like, okay, now like come back because like this is creepy and I want to leave. And Keith is quiet. Keith, where are you? Oh my God. No response. What happened to Keith? So, of course, she's got to go look for him. She's got to go save the fucking day. So, but she got locked in the basement before because the door closed. So she grabs grabs a chair from the kitchen and like, you know, props open the door like so it's open. Because that's all you needed, I guess. Props open the door. She grabs her phone. Does she have her phone? Let me see. She has her phone so she can have her phone light on, which makes good sense. I will turn my phone light on in solidarity. Okay. I'm gonna drain my battery, but this is good for the joke. So, phone light in hand, Tess goes down into the basement, back into that creepy hall. She goes into the room, right? The one room she found. And Keith isn't there. Like, he's fucking gone. Like, 100,000%. So she's like, Keith, where you at? So she's looking around the hallway now. And to be clear, now that we see this hallway in light, it looks like when you build part of a house that is, like, new. So there's, like, the support beams, but there's not necessarily wall. Or, like, there's, like, sheeting. It kind of looks like that. It's, like, black wall, though. Like, black plastic sheeting is the wall. So it's kind of a weird look, right? Like, an unfinished part of the house. But she's like, oh, my God, where are you at? And at the end of the hall, there's, like, a second door. Like, but it's, like, also a secret door. Not, like, with a handle, but you, like, push it open. So she pushes it open, and she sees a fucking stone staircase. Downwards. I shit you not. This is like, and not like a stone staircase like, oh, it's a concrete staircase. I mean like a staircase that there was like stone because you're underground, and Minecraft style, you carved a staircase and a passageway down into the stone that your house is built on top of. That's what it looks like. So she goes down there because she's like, what the fuck? Where else would Keith go? So she's like on the stairs and she's like, Keith, hello? And he's like, oh, Tess, what up? And so she's like, oh, he's there. So she goes to look for him, right? Yeah, so he responds. She's gonna go look for him. So she's walking around. It's dark. She makes it down the stairs. It's like a pretty long staircase. And then it's just halls, like cavernous tunnels. Again, this is all like stone tunnels. Elaborate labyrinthine system under the house. She's seeing weird shit like dog cages and miscellaneous metal rusted bits of stuff on the ground. So she's like, okay, Keith, where are you? And Keith is like, bleh. So she sees him. He's like on the ground, like crouched, like just in the hall, like in a hall, right? So he's like crouched on the ground, and she's like, Keith, oh my God! And he's like, shh, please shut the fuck up. Like, he doesn't say that, but you could tell with his eyes. He says it with his eyes. He's like, shh. And so he's like, be quiet. There's someone down here. And she's like, oh my God. So she's like screaming and freaking out. So she's like, oh my God. And he's like, we really need to be quiet now. This is a quiet time. And so he's like, okay, we need to go this way, like deeper into the cave. And she's like, no, we need to go back because that's where the exit is. And he's like, no. The thing that's down here went that way. So we need to go this way. And she's like, no. She's just like freaking out and like fighting him. But he's like, I feel bad for Keith because he's like, clearly got pulled in here and is trapped, and he's like trying to be rational about this, and she's like losing her mind. She's like the worst person to talk to for help right now. And so he's like, okay. So they're just having this little like back and forth where he's like, no, calm down. And she's like, and then from behind Keith, out of the fucking darkness, like a golem, honestly, is like a giant naked woman. Like a giant, naked, old, creepy golem-like woman. I don't want to make it seem like it's just a regular woman. She definitely looks like a monster. She's really tall. Like, I didn't really notice this until I was rewatching it, but she's like She like looks like she's pushing almost that 7 feet tall kind of like height, because she's like way taller than any of the other actors. Also, she's like in the movie, she's played by a man, so it's like a man wearing like a creepy Gollum suit, but it's got like boobies because it's a woman. But we'll get to the monster. We're not at monster backstory yet. Creepy Gollum giant naked woman comes out of the darkness, and she's like, she fucking immediately bashes Keith's head in, like just grabs it with her hand against the wall. Keith is fucking dead. Tess is like, ah! Cut to black. Boof. All right. I need to get like a sip of drink after all of that. That is the first act of this movie, and I dropped my phone again. Ay. All right. So, cut to black. Now, we are in sunny California, driving down the 101, or not the 101, whatever the highway on the coast is. It's gorgeous. I love this highway. I love driving down it. Like when you're going from Santa Cruz, it doesn't matter. I could put a map up. You guys would know what I'm talking about. But anyway, we're in California. We're in a convertible. There's like a young-ish guy, like in his 30s, like Hollywood guy, like driving down the freeway like, I'm living my best Hollywood life. He's singing to the radio. He's having a great time. He gets a call. His name is AJ, by the way. So he gets a phone call, and of course he answers it through his like wireless phone thing on the car. So we get to hear it all. Also, it's in a convertible, so I'd be really embarrassed. Also, I don't know if you do like, you know, the phone audio in a convertible while you're on the freeway. Wouldn't that just sound like but it didn't seem to be a problem. Maybe that's movie magic. I kind of want to test it out. But anyway, we get a call from someone AJ works for. So we learn that AJ is like a showrunner for TV stuff. Or like, he's like a Hollywood guy in the vaguest term. Like, we don't have I don't know if he's a director or like a producer or something, but he's like an important name, and he's some sort of showrunner type, like not an actor. And it's like his other showrunner people are like, oh my god, hey, what's up, AJ? So that actress that you were working with for the pilot of the show you were working on, yeah, she's come out with some allegations, and we don't think it would be great if you worked on this project anymore because it's becoming a problem. So, sorry. And he's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I was one of the first names attached to this project. Again, we don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but he's a Hollywood guy. And so he's like, I was attached to this project, and they're like, yeah, but it would be better if you did not be a part of this project anymore, because there are allegations, and like, we're not saying you did it, but like, it looks really bad for us, so goodbye. And he was like, what? Like, and then he's all like, what is she saying? And they're like, well, we don't want to say it, and also we advise that you don't say anything on this phone call. So they're still trying to like cover his ass about it. And he's like, oh my god, did she say like I raped her? And they're like, I mean, yes, she is saying that, and we're not saying that you did it, but like, that's what she's saying, so there's gonna be an investigation, and we don't want any of that on us, so you're fired. And he's like, oh my god, I'm fired. What? And they're like, yeah, okay, bye. So that's what we get. And again, we just went from a scene of poor old Keith getting his head bashed in by a naked woman underground to this random Hollywood guy getting Me Too'd. So if you're confused, that's how I felt, and that's why I love this movie. You gotta have that weirdness. Jump. Okay, so now we're just following AJ. So he lost his job, he potentially raped someone, and he is now in his like wealth management office, and they're like, okay, with the current lifestyle you live, you're gonna go broke in 3 months. Which is so sad. So they're like, you're gonna go broke in 3 months, and one of the things that's really killing you is your expensive mortgage, your LA fancy schmancy mortgage. Which I'm like, damn, you don't even own your house. It's sad. So But he does own properties in Detroit, and so they're like, the wealth management was like, I would just get rid of your LA house, but you could try to sell your Detroit houses, because he's like, I want to live in LA, like, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, okay, I'll go to Detroit and I'll try to sell my properties there to like make some more money so I don't go broke and fucking starve to death or whatever. And so they're like, okay, hint, hint, one of the properties in Detroit is the house that all this stuff has been going down in. So that's how we tie into it. So he goes to Detroit. He like gets the key from the property people who were like managing it. He gets there and he's like, he gets into the house because he's like, he kind of like, it's unclear if he's like going there to live there or he's just gonna go sell it because he's so destitute. It's kind of like up in the air. So he goes there and it looks like he's settling in to kind of like be there for a while. But there's a lot of luggage around in the house. Pretty much because Keith and Tess's stuff wasn't moved. It's just there. Like, they're staying in the house. Like, there's toiletry bags in the bathroom, and there's luggage in the, like, you know, in the main room and in the bedroom and stuff. And he's like, what the fuck? That's really weird. Like, not just luggage, like their clothes, but, like, their electronics and, like, all of their stuff, their wallets and things. So he's kind of, like, suspicious, right? And so he calls the property management and he's like super cranky and he's like, are people living here? Did you like rent this place out like recently? And they're like, no, like totally not. And they say like the maids only come right before they're about to book it out to someone, and no one's been there for weeks. The last booking was weeks ago. So this was like a several week long time skip cut to black. Pretty crazy. What happened to Keith and Tess? Well, Keith is dead, but what happened to Tess? Am I right? Where do they go? I guess underground. Okay, so, but that's all we get from that. AJ has to go out and hang out with his friends, because he's from Detroit originally, so all of his friends live there. Or, like, his homeschool, like, friends, you know, like, straight up. And so he goes out with his friends, and they're, like, at the club, and they're, like... And his friend's like, oh my god, so, like, I heard that you got Me Too'd? And he's like, yeah, it totally sucks. And so his friend's like, yeah, but, like, what actually happened? Am I right? Like, nothing really happened, right? That's, like, just lies. And he's like, well, I mean, like, I did bang that girl, right? And he's like, okay, yeah, bro, totally. And then he's like, yeah, and she just, like, took a lot of convincing, right? And he was like, okay, but, like, she didn't say no, right? Like, it's not what you're saying, right? And he's like, well, I mean, she said no in the beginning, but then, like, he, like, totally admits to raping someone. Like, straight up, totally just, like... It's kind of funny. It's funny in a way that, like, it's not funny outside of a film. If someone actually said that, I'd be, like, really shocked. But, I mean, like, in the context of the film, I thought it was really funny that he was, like, just so openly admitted to raping someone. So. Ruh-roh, looks like AJ is a shitty person. But we kind of knew that, because he hasn't done anything else nice this whole time. Like... So yeah, he goes out with his friend, he does all that stuff, he goes back, he's all like sad because he's drunk, and he's like, oh my god, my life actually sucks. He calls up the lady he raped, like the actress, and he's all like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, like, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're not sorry, you're just like sad that your life fell apart because you did something bad, like, but like, okay, we had to watch that, and I was like, I don't feel bad for you, okay, guy. No respect from me. Okay, it's the next day. He's hungover, and he's going through the luggage. Like, he didn't go through the luggage at first, he just noticed it was there, and now he's, like, going through everyone's stuff, because, you know, he's a weirdo. He finds all their stuff, and, like, he finds their car keys and their electronics. He, like, tries to get into Tess's laptop, and he can't because he doesn't know the password, but he, like, tries it anyway, and I'm like, what did you try? But anyway... And so he's like, this is really suspicious. They left a lot of important stuff here. So, like, I don't understand why. And he decides that he thinks that they're like hiding in the basement because he hasn't been in the basement. And he's like, what if the people are just hiding in the basement and I have like squatters? And so he like opens the basement door and he like yells down there like, hey, I have a gun. I'm going to fucking get you. Like, you have 10 seconds to leave. Like, da-da-da. No response. So he grabs a kitchen knife. And he grabs a kitchen knife and a flashlight. Like, he has an actual straight up flashlight. and he goes down into the basement. So he goes in the basement, and upon looking in there, he finds that mirror rig that Tess set up. And so he's like, what the fuck is this? And very quickly, he finds the creepy rope through the hole. He pulls it. He finds a secret door. He finds a secret hallway. So he sees the hallway, and he's like, oh my God. I need to Google something. He goes upstairs, goes on the computer, and he starts Googling whether you can count, like, underground space as square footage for your property. Because, you know, like, the bigger, the more square footage on the property, the more you can sell it for. And he found one thing that's like, yeah, you could call, like, basement space, like, part of the square footage when you're selling the house. So he's really excited, and he grabs a measuring tape. Because he's like, oh my God, maybe this house is worth more than I thought it was because there's a secret room. So he finds like a hidden hallway and he's just stoked by it. He's so excited about it. So he grabs the measuring tape, goes in there, finds the creepy room. He's nonplussed about that. He just measures it for the square footage. And then he's like, wowee, there's a hall and a room. This is great. And then he finds the second door to the second hallway and is more excited because that's more square footage he could put on the house. So he's like measuring the stairs. To be fair, we also get that it's 9 feet like diagonal worth of stairs. So take that as you will. That's really deep, I think, for like just a hole into the ground. That's pretty scary to me. But yeah, he's like measuring, and like, you know, there's all these holes and shit. He's just measuring it all to see how much square footage he can get. I'm like blown away by this guy, but he's a major dick, so it's kind of the point. So as he's going down one of the hallways, he finds one of the hallways has a room, and there's like a light on in the room. And he looks inside, and there's a TV with like a video playing, and it's like an instructional breastfeeding video. So it's a woman like holding a baby, and it's like, this is gonna help you and your baby bond, and blah, 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 blah. You know, like whatever instructional breastfeeding videos are like from like on a tape, like it's on like a tape. And so he's like, whoa, he's like super grossed out by breastfeeding though, which that tracks. Breastfeeding isn't I mean, okay, I think you can be grossed out by breastfeeding because why not? It's a little crazy, but at the same time, like, if you're gonna be a weirdo guy, like, breastfeeding's not the craziest thing. Okay, I do judge people a little bit when they're like weirdo sexuality stuff, and then they're like, breastfeeding, oh, disgusting, and I'm like, really? Like, that's so natural. But okay, again, get my political views out of this video. We have to talk about what happens to AJ. So he's grossed out by the video. So he has like measuring tape on the floor, right? Like, you know, when you have it really extended, like one of those metal ones, really extended, and so something bumps it, and it goes, you know, it's like starts to close up, or no, what happens is someone starts pulling it, and so it like drops from his hands, and like he can hear it like go off down the hall. Scary. It's like, again, dark as shit. You can only see like maybe 3 or 4 feet in either direction due to the darkness. And so he has his flashlight, he has a knife, he's holding it like a cop would, like a cop would hold a gun and a flashlight, not a knife, because it's not how you'd want to hold a knife, but he's holding it like that. Kind of like, where's my knife? He's got his flashlight and his knife like this, like an idiot. And he's like, so he stands there for 1 hot second, immediately turns and runs in the opposite direction. To be fair, smart move. I don't know what you were going to do with that knife, good sir, but that's where he's at. So he runs off. He's running down the hall. It's dark. Let's see. So his flashlight dies, or it starts to die, right? Where it like cuts out, cuts back in. You have to like, and it comes back on. So we get a couple of great moments where it's like dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. Oh, there's a person in the light. You know, like creepy lady's there. She's there. Ah, scary. So we see her a little bit. He sees her. He like runs away from her. I bumped my microphone. So she chases him, he's running away from her, and then he falls into a hole, like a deep-ass hole with a cage on top, like a cage door. So he falls in the hole, boop, cage door closed. She's got him. Like a spider. I mean, she's got big Shelob energy, and I don't know why, but that's definitely where she's at. So who's in the hole with him? None other than our girl Tess. And she's like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Because he's like, oh my god. So it's like the same thing, except, you know, now they're in a hole. Tess is in the hole with him. She tells him to shush. We cut to black again. Whoosh. The past is now. When we come back from our cut to black, we're in the past. We're at the same house, we can tell, but it's like, you know, got that like past saturated, it's like pretty, and everyone's like, well, it's not that far in the past. It's like the 80s. Because they're like, we follow a man who gets out of the house. He gets into his car, turns on the radio, and they're talking about the Reagan administration. So it's like the Reagan times past, not like the 50s. Unless Reagan was alive and was around doing administrative stuff in the 50s, but I don't think that's true. Unless it's a different Reagan, that would be like an alternate history. It's like a different Reagan. I would be like, whoa. Anyway, it's the 80s. Like, clearly it's the 80s. Because I get to be jealous of all the like the prices of things, because they like go to a store and they're like, look, everything's like fucking $2, and I'm like, damn, the past. But we follow this guy. He gets into the car, he goes to the store, he's in the store, he's got a cart, he's looking around for stuff. He asks the lady who works there, like, hey, do you have plastic sheeting? And she's like, yeah, it's in this aisle. He's like, do you have baby diapers and baby stuff? And she's like, yeah, why? Like, are you expecting a baby? And he's like, yeah, we're doing like I'm doing a home birth. And she's like, oh my god, that's crazy. Like, do you have a list of things you need to get? I can help you find all the stuff. And he's like, no, we don't have a midwife. I'm just doing a home birth by myself. And she's like, oh my god, okay, like, let me help you grab all the stuff. And she's like giving him stuff to do. And she's like, oh, that's why you need the plastic sheeting, because you're doing a home birth. And I'm like, creepy, but okay. Like, you know, it tracks, but I don't like it, because this guy has major serial killer vibes from the get-go. So it reminds me of that scene in Always Sunny when when Dennis and Dee decide to like pretend to be serial killers to get into the mind of a serial killer. So they like go to the hardware store and they buy a bunch of like serial killer stuff, and it's just like a bunch of stuff at once, and like no one's suspicious about it.
I'm telling you, Dee, this is a bad idea.
No, we need killing tools.
Yeah, but you're not using your head. This is serial killing 101. You don't buy anything that can be traced back to you. I wonder if they have painter's overalls.
How come?
Well, my guy's a painter. You see, I go from house to house, gaining very easy access to my victims, and more importantly, gaining their trust. Who's your guy?
Psycho clown.
Psycho clown?
Yeah, I like to dress like a clown when I slaughter. Now help me grab some killing tools.
That's what this guy's doing, except with baby stuff too, which is creepy. The baby stuff will make sense in time, I assure you. Babies are a big theme in this film. They haven't come up yet, but boy oh boy, in the last act, it's all babies. So the guy gets a bunch of weird serial killer stuff, he puts it into his car. He gets into his car, and he sees a woman also getting into her car. She drives off, and he follows her in his car to her house. She's parked in her house. He parks his car across the street, and he puts on like a PG&E kind of like civil service cable guy, water repairman type of uniform on. He does that and goes up to the front door and is like, hey, I need to fix your stuff. He like knocks on the door. He tells her like, I need to go check on your whatever. And she's like, oh, okay, whatever. She lets him into the house. He goes into the bathroom. He turns on the sink. Like he's like pretending to look at the water pressure or something. And so, but he really just unlocks the window, right? The bathroom window, so he can get in later because he's a creepy serial killer. And then he's like, oh, it's all fine. Don't worry about it. Like, it's all good, whatever. And he leaves. So that's the end of that. I guess it's just to like show how creepy he is, you know, just creepy. He drives back to his house, and there's a nosy neighbor shows up, and he's like, hey, are you moving out like the rest of us? Because everyone's moving out of the neighborhood. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. you know, creepy voice. Goes into the house and he opens the basement door where we hear a woman screaming, presumably giving birth to a baby with no medical intervention or midwiving, or just by herself, straight up Handmaid's Tale style. Cut to black. So there we go. We got a little bit of history. What does it mean? What does it mean? Oh boy, we're gonna figure it out, guys. Oh boy, we're gonna figure it out, guys. We're back in the hole with AJ and Tess, and Tess is like, don't freak out, okay? And he's like, why? Why would I freak out? And naked woman comes, and she has a giant baby bottle. So she has a baby bottle, but it's not the size of a like for babies. It's like a baby bottle like for cows. It's like really huge, you know? And she puts her hand through the like cage top and like offers them milk from the baby bottle. And Tess is like, num 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 num. She just drinks it up. And then she's like, and then AJ's like, I'm not fucking doing that. That's so creepy. And Tess is like, just fucking do it, dude. We're trapped in a fucking hole. Like, come on. And he's like, no. And so then the lady gets upset because she's like, if you get upset, she gets upset. So like, really don't fuck with her. Like, again, Tess has been in this hole for like weeks now, so she clearly knows what's going on. She hasn't been killed like Keith has. So AJ refuses to drink it. So the lady opens up the top of the cage, drags his ass out, and takes him away into the darkness. She ends up taking him to the room where there's a video, the breastfeeding info video is playing, and we get a scene of this creepy golem lady breastfeeding AJ, and he does not like it and does not want it, but she does it. And it's quite a scene to watch. It's kind of one of those that I was like horrified by because it was a little graphic, but then I was laughing at too because like he's such a shitty person. It was kind of funny to see this happen to him. Like they made him dislikable enough to the point where I was like, actually, this is kind of great that's happening to you. So yeah, that's a scene that if you did or did not want to see, it's in this movie. So we go back to Tess in the hole. The cage is open, so she just fucking crawls out. She's like, okay, cool, I'm out. And she's like running around trying to like escape. And what happens? So she tries to, she's running around in the hallways. She sees the video room, so she sees that they're both in there, and she's like, okay, I'm just gonna like sneak on by. But it was right outside the video room where AJ dropped his stupid fucking measuring tape. So she trips on the measuring tape, and it makes a lot of sound, because, you know, it's like, pss, pss, pss. And so the lady's like, bleh, like monster. She makes monster sounds too, so she's like, bleh, and like turns around and like goes to go chase her. And so while the monster is now chasing Tess, AJ takes this moment to escape and runs in the opposite direction. So who are we following? This is where I have to follow my notes because a lot of jumping around happens. Tess manages to run back to the basement in the house. She's like up the stairs, through the hallway, into the basement. She's looking around for something to do. There's the window that she can't like really get to by herself, and she smashes it with something like in the basement. She smashes the window, and she's like, help, 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 help. And some hands come out to grab her and help her get out of there. So she gets pulled out. And it's that homeless man who was chasing her earlier. And he's like, yeah, there's a fucking monster that lives in that house. Like, I told you not to go in there, but like, don't, like, let's get you away from here, right? And she's like, no, we need to go save AJ. He's gonna die in there. And the guy's like, hell no, let's fucking leave. And she's like, no, you don't understand. So he's like, okay, let's just go away for a little bit, and we have to like regroup and figure out what to do. So she's gone. She's like out of the house. And it's like great because he like pulls her out, and then you can see like the creepy hand of the lady's like, she almost got you, bitch. But she kind of fades away in the darkness because she has another baby to worry about, and that baby is AJ. So yeah, also because the homeless guy's like, she prowls the streets at night, so we need a fucking boogie woogie and not be out here in the night because she'll get us. So that's what he says. We go back to AJ. He's run off. He's in the halls. He's running through the halls and doing crazy stuff, right? You know, he had his phone in his pocket the whole time. So while he did lose his flashlight, he does have his phone light. So I guess it's time to put the phone light back on. Okay, so here now we're AJ running through the halls. Phone light. Okay, so he reaches a point where he finds a door in the middle of one of the halls. And he's like, oh, that's a little suspicious. He turns back. Who's back of the ways a little bit? The lady has followed him all the way here. But there's like a threshold, right? Where she is standing there, not advancing at all. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Like, she's like standing there and then she like goes away. She's like clearly like, no, I'm not going beyond there. Also, I didn't mention it, but the homeless man said at some point, I don't remember, it was the first or second time, he said, she's not the worst thing that's in there. So we already have a little bit of a preconception that there's something worse that this creepy naked lady doesn't want to get mixed up with. So she leaves. But of course, AJ's a fucking idiot. And he's like, LOL, noise. So he opens the door and goes in. And there's like crushed, it's like a room. It's like a bedroom. It's pretty gross. There's like crushed cans all over the place. It smells bad because he's immediately like, oh my God. Like, you know, where you're like, ugh, it's like dank, dark hole, kind of nasty. And he sees, what does he see? So there's a bed in the room with a very, very old man lying in it. And the old man's like, "Rrr," and he's like, cut away from AJ. We're going back to Tess. So Tess borrows a phone at some point. Her and the homeless man have like walked away a decent amount. She borrows a phone. She calls the police. The police show up. And she's trying to tell the police that A, she's been trapped in a house for weeks. And B, that there's someone who's still trapped in that house and they need to go and investigate and save him because he's probably going to die. The police are like not believing her. To be fair, she looks a little crazy. She's like a little dirty, a little gross. And they're like, do you have any ID? And she says, no, I don't have any ID. And they're like, okay, do you have like anything on you? Like anything that identifies you as a person, just so we can like check to see that you're not crazy. But she doesn't, because everything she has been left in that house. And so they're like, they clearly think she's like on crack or something, and so she gets like really offended by it. And then they're like, okay, I really don't believe you. And she's like, oh my God, you guys need to freaking help to save this man's life. Again, I'm like, girl, I would have been like, well, at least I got out. Maybe I'm a bad guy. I don't think I would have cared about AJ as much. I would have probably called the police, but if they didn't want to do anything, I don't think I'd go back for him. But that's me. So, yeah, please don't want to listen. We're going back to AJ. So back in AJ, in the creepy old man's room, in the Underdark, which is pretty much what I imagine this place is like. It's just the Underdark. Let's see. So he's like asked the man if he's okay, like, because there's like an old man in the bed. He's like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, he thinks the man has been trapped here by the lady. Although I'm like, that lady didn't come over here, so why do you think that? I would have been like really suspicious about this, but he's not, because he's an idiot. And so he like helps him get some water, because there's like stuff in here for the man to survive. Like, he looks like a bedridden man, like old man, but there's like bottles of water and stuff for him to drink. So it's like, I don't know how any of this stuff got here or how long it's been down there, right? But that's where he's at. So he helps him get some water. He's like trying to help tend to this old man. And then like there's like a bed, like the old man's like trying to like, he can't talk. He's like so old, he like can't talk. So he's like pointing and making sounds. And the guy's like, do you need the bedside table? So he like moves the bedside table closer. And he wants to help, but he doesn't have a lot of patience. So AJ's like, he just kind of moves the table over and is like, okay, figure it out. Like, I don't know what to do for you. So the old man's like rummaging through the drawer. Like, there's like a drawer in it. He's rummaging through. We're going back to Tess. Tess has convinced the police to follow her. I'm going to turn this light off. We don't need this. Tess has convinced the police to go back to the house with her, but she does not have the house key anymore. And so the police are like, we can't do anything. Like, we can't break into this house because there's no suspicious activity that we've seen. We don't have any proof that you've lived here or you have the keys. You're not the homeowner. Like, you know, they're all really logical, but at the same time, it's super frustrating. But it's like, they're like, there's no way we can legally do anything about breaking into this house. And she's really pissed about that. And then they get a call saying that there's been a shooting or something, so they have to go run away and do like regular police stuff. And she's very angry about it. I probably would be too. It's so frustrating to watch. Yeah, so they move on to other cop things. We go back to AJ in the Underdark. So, in the room with the old man, there's a TV with like a tape player, like a VHS tape like player like built into it, you know, like a fancy one. And there's like a wall of VHS tapes, and the VHS tapes are just like woman's name labeled, kind of like Dennis's sex tapes from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, you know, that's the vibes you get.
Just in case. Yeah, here we go. W through Z. You should be under W, yeah?
No, my name doesn't start with a W.
Waitress, here we go. Waitress coffee shop. 1 star. Not good.
Oh, just give that to me. 1 star.
So he like takes one and puts it into the tape player, and it's like a murder. It's just like videos of him murdering women. So, you know, really classy. You don't really see it, you just hear it, but that's pretty much, that's the implication, is that it's a murder video, and that this man has murdered every woman on the tape, and there's like 100 tapes, so he's killed like 100 women. So, serial killer vibes. Yeah. And spoiler alert, not really, you're supposed to get this, but this old man is the old man from the flashback. He was kind of an old man in the 80s, and now he's a very old man in 2022, so. He was like middle-aged man in the 80s. So that's what we see, and so he sees this like, so AJ's watching this tape, and he's disgusted by it, so you know, he's got a little bit of a soul left. He's disgusted by it, so he turns to berate the old man and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're so sick. I hate this. So gross. And the old man, rummaging through the drawer, pulls out a fucking gun. And then AJ's like, oh. I can't. So crazy. So he pulls out a gun and then shoots himself in the head. Is what the old man does. So then AJ's like, well, he puts it up to his head, and AJ's like, no, don't do it. And then he shoots himself in the head. He's like, I'm just ready to die. So that's that. We go back to Tess. Tess breaks the front window of the house open by throwing a rock through it to get back into the house so she can get her car keys and not her stuff, which I'm like, I would have grabbed my stuff, but she didn't. She grabs her car keys, gets in her car, and it's nighttime now, so she gets into her car, turns it on. The lady's out and about. She's like out, like in front of the car. She's gonna get her. So Tess runs into the woman with her car and like pins her between the house and the car. So she's like stuck and dead, you would assume, right? But you could probably tell from the way I'm saying it, the woman is not dead. But Tess does think she's dead. She gets out of the car. Also, in this part where she crashes the car into the house to, like, crush the woman, she fucks up her car. Her car is, like, ruined, does not run anymore. So, choices were made. She runs into the house to go save AJ. So she runs into the house, down into the basement, like, through the thing, like, you know, all the way to the tunnels. She's, like, going to go save him. AJ takes the gun from the dead man and is like, free, sweet, I have a free weapon, like a video game guy, and equips it and just like goes to like leave. And he's got the gun at the ready because he's like afraid that the woman's gonna come up, so he's like ready to fucking shoot anything. So in his haste, he sees someone moving, shoots it. He shoots Tess in like the side. It's like her gut almost. It's not her gut because that's like more, it's like more in the middle, but like pretty bad. He shoots her pretty bad in her body area. And then he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, because she like fucking falls over. She's like, ugh. And he's like, oh my god, don't be dead. And so she's not dead. She is able to like shamble around a little bit. And he shambles her upstairs. He helps her like get upstairs. They get out of the house and they see Tess's car, which is just crashed into the house with no sight of the creepy woman. She's gone. Oh my god, where did she go? And she's like, oh my god, she was supposed to be here. And he's like, what? So he has the gun. Tess is injured. They're wandering around. They just start going down the street. They're just like stumbling around doing nothing because they're both stupid. To be fair, the car doesn't work. They can't drive away. And I guess, I don't know, his car doesn't work. I would have been really focused on getting a car at this point if this were happening to me, so I'm confused by why that's not their plot point. But okay. Okay. They stumble around until they find the homeless man who he's just like out and about. He helps them go, he takes them to his shelter where he's been hiding out. And so he's there in his shelter, and then he has no bandages or anything, so they cannot treat Tess in any way. So that sucks. But he explains that the lady has been living in that house for 40 years or so, and it was her daddy's house, and what? Yeah. So that old man was the father of this monster woman, and the reason she's such a monster is because he was making babies with his babies, you know, kind of like very incestuous monster. Like, he would keep women down there, he would get them pregnant, he would then keep those children down there and then get those children pregnant, and then rinse and repeat until this woman was born. So, babies. That's why he had to do so many at-home births. So that's creepy. And then the homeless guy does the classic, they're like, are we safe? And he's like, I've been here for 15 years, and that lady's never got me before. Lady busts through the wall, Kool-Aid Man style, grabs him and fucking like crushes his head. Is that what I said? She bashes his head in. Yep, that's her MO, really. AJ and Tess run away. So they're running. There's like a water tower or something. It's like a short, like a tallish building, but it's like short and cylindrical, and there's like a spiral staircase on the outside. So I think it's a water tower, but it seems kind of low. I don't know what the building is really. Running up these like circle stairs like a video game, and Tess is like, wait for me, I'm actually in a lot of pain. And he's like, haha, nope. AJ just like fucking sprints up there like an asshole. She makes it up there eventually, but she's like, he's not willing to help her, you can tell. And the lady is in pursuit, so, you know, it's all danger all around. AJ, like, tries to pull the gun on her, and he drops the gun down the fucking stairs like an idiot, so now he has no gun. So now it's Tess and AJ on the roof. The woman is, like, coming up the stairs. She's ready to get him. And so, AJ is like, I have a plan. I can get out of this. And Tess is like, okay, how? And so he grabs Tess by the hair. He grabs her like this. And he's like, hey, go save your baby. And throws her off the edge of the fucking tower. And just throws Tess off the tower because the lady's like coming. And he's like, go save your baby. And Tess is like, no, falling. But the fucking monster lady does. She jumps for Tess, grabs her. She's like, fucking totally saves her. It's kind of great. It's kind of amazing. So he looks down over the edge where like their dead bodies are, and he sees like the lady in the fall. She jumped, she grabbed Tess, did like a turn, so she hits the ground first. Her, like, she's like kind of bashed against the ground. So she's bashed against the ground, but Tess is totally safe. Totally saved her from the impact and everything. So good job, crazy naked lady. And AJ's like, noise. So he goes down the stairs to go get that gun that he fucking dropped. Cause he like, and he goes to check on Tess. Tess is totally alive. The lady looks dead. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. Just like, I had no choice. And Tess is just like, oh my fucking God. Like, she kind of realizes he's an asshole. To be fair, he hasn't done any big asshole moves in front of her this whole time. He's just kind of been like another scared person. So I get that she's like just realizing he's evil. And while he's like apologizing, the freaking lady gets up and crushes his head with her hands, with her bare ass hands, and fucking kills him. So we're all like, good job, you're my hero now. So now she's an anti-hero. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, fuck. Oh my God, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I had no choice, you know? She was gonna kill us both, and I had no time to think. I fucking panicked. I didn't I didn't even let go. You started to slip. There's nothing I could do. You get it, right? Okay. You're gonna be okay. I got you. I'm saving you. You're okay.
But she does kill AJ, and now Tess is alone with the monster lady. So she turns to Tess and she wants to take her home. And like the lady can't speak really, so she kind of makes us, she's like, home? And Tess is like, no, I can't move. Because Tess again has a gunshot wound that she's freaking dying from. I don't know if she's dying, but she's like super injured. And so like she's laying on the ground like, oof, ouch, you know. And then the lady like tries to pick her up and she's like, ah, like screaming out. So the lady's like too scared to pick her up. Because she is like, she's not like actually a monster. She's really just like a lady who's been trapped in a hole forever. So she doesn't want to hurt her. Well, it doesn't want to hurt Tess. So she tries to like gingerly pick her up. And then she realizes like, oh, you have a wound. And Tess like shows her wound and stuff. And she's like, oh no, like she's like in distress. And I feel really bad for her. I don't know. I love monsters. So I'm sorry guys. This lady melted my heart. But yeah, so she realizes she's too hurt. Tess, while she's like trying to distract the lady, grabs the gun that AJ dropped again in his death, puts the gun up to the lady's head and fucking pulls the trigger and kills her. So she killed the monster and she walks away. She like gets to her feet and walks away as the sun rises. And that's the end of the movie. That's how it goes. Yeah, so that's Barbarian. The title is a little confusing because who is the Barbarian? Is it the woman? The like monstrous woman who was the bad guy most of the time? Is it the man who created her? Is it AJ, who's just an asshole and I hate? Is it Keith? No, I'm just kidding. The only person it's not is Keith. Like, I don't even think it's Tess, honestly, because like Tess is just like, sorry. Because Tess is just a lady. She's not really doing anything. She just kind of gets caught up in this whole thing. So, I guess you decide. It's either AJ, the old man, or the lady. Although I'm less inclined to say it's the lady. I think it's the guy who made her. But, you know. There's layers to this. I can definitely, like, probably wax poetic about the potential symbolism of it all. I won't because I wanted to just explain the plot of this so CAITLYN will understand what I mean what I think when she says she's gonna stay in an Airbnb, because that's the joke. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I explained the plot to you, and if I'm not gonna say anything else, I should stop. But thanks for watching. Yeah, I guess if you liked this, then wow, that's really good. It's just me going a little crazy in front of a microphone. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this could be really fun to explain the plots of other movies, especially horror movies, because I love them. But I don't know. I don't know if it's that fun. But anyway, CAITLYN, I'm looking at you. You gotta watch this video 100% and then leave a comment on it, or I won't believe that you saw it. But that's it. That was the movie Barbarian. That's it. Extra hands to say goodbye. Alrighty.